I want to share with you why I struggled with the Latin language in the traditional Latin Mass, why that Latin really made me feel truly disconnected. And I almost didn't become a traditional Catholic because of that. I also want to share with you what I think is the number one, or at least one of the big problems traditional Catholics or the traditional Catholic community has when it comes to Johnny come lately trad Catholics just like me. So that's what I want to do real quick for you today. Hi, Joe McLean here. I am the host of a Catholic radio program called Catholic Drive Time. We cover the news, everything from the Vatican to the White House, all points in between. We have incredible conversations about just about everything, all from a Catholic perspective, live across 50 radio stations, Monday through Friday. I'll throw a link in the description if you would like information about that. But do me a favor, while you're heading down there, smash that thumbs up and the subscribe. I'd be grateful to you. So a little bit of background information on me so you better understand. I didn't grow up Catholic. I was a Protestant. I was Church of Christ. But in 1999, I entered the Catholic Church because the woman I wanted to marry told me I had to become Catholic if she was going to marry me, and I just wanted to do whatever it took to make that happen. I was a third-degree Master Mason at the time. I was living a hedonistic lifestyle, addicted to pornography, committed the grave crime of abortion, and so much more. Again, all of that is in my film, linked below. But in 1999 at the Easter Vigil, Bishop McCormick, he confirmed me as a Catholic. Now, he was heavily involved in the priest abuse scandal under cardinal law in Boston. I did not know that. Blew my mind when I figured that out later. But my heart was not into being Catholic. I just checked the box. It's all I cared about. We got married in September of 2000. In 2002, my wife wanted to divorce me. So I was at the end of my rope. I was at the end of the world in my perspective. And then I had a mystical encounter with Christ that changed everything, changed the trajectory of my life. It changed our marriage. It changed literally everything. Again, all in the film. But nonetheless, I went on this wild ride to try to figure out who Christ was and what was the nature of his revelation to mankind. What was the nature of his Catholic Church? And I remember giving my heart to Christ and to his Catholic Church in 2003. I can still remember this day very clearly in my head. And I got heavily involved in Catholic apologetics. Where is that in the Bible? You Catholics say this. Where is that in the Bible? I spent years writing, speaking, and studying that kind of Catholic apologetics. You know what I never did during those times? I never studied the liturgy. I didn't pay any attention to the Catholic liturgy per se. I didn't dawn on me to think, why do we have a liturgy that's different today versus 1,000 years or more ago? Why is the Novus Ordo so vastly different than the 62? Like, I paid no attention to this. I didn't even really know the 62 Mass existed, to be honest with you. So anyway, long story short, that's the background. Now, I've worked, since 2008, I've worked full-time in Catholic apostolate work. I've worked in Catholic radio for 10 years. I've been at this a long time. Now, we as a family had notoriously attended, that suburban Catholic parish. I call it Saint Suburbia. And we're typically a 11:30 type of family. Whatever the Mass was at 11:30, that was the Mass we were going to go to no matter what it was. And we were going to this Saint Suburbia parish in our town that we live in right now until we felt the pressure, because we were homeschooling our kids, the pressure at the CCD program was designed for public school kids. And we felt our kids weren't on the same page as those kids, and we didn't want our kids to be exposed to a lot of the things that those kids were dealing with, and the CCD program was designed to help those kids with. So we felt it prudent to leave the parish, who was not going to allow us to catechize our kids at home with religious studies, for the sacraments. So we went to a church that did allow that. It was a much more traditional church, a very beautiful church, by the way. And we went to your typical 11:30 Mass, which happened to be a Novus Ordo said completely in Latin, where the priest was ad orientem, in other words, facing east with the people, facing towards the coming Christ, which was, like, what is this? What are we dealing with here? And that Latin really made me feel totally disconnected. Now, I remember the priest one day asked me, "Hey, Joe, why do you come to this Mass?" Is it the Latin? And I'm like, no. Are you kidding? No. I mean, I said, Father, listen, you could say this Mass in Swahili. This is the Mass we're going to go to because it's 11:30. I said, but honestly, that Latin is very difficult for me. I feel disconnected. I didn't understand it. I couldn't pronounce it. I mean, I couldn't even sing along. I mean, the choir was stretching syllables out for like forever, it seemed. And I struggled to say, I couldn't sing Eagle's Wings very well, let alone do this stuff. It was just very off-putting, and I felt like a bump on the log. I felt like I was just disconnected, and nobody was reaching out to help me. I felt alone in that. Now, and it wasn't as though Father responded by giving me some inspiration that changed everything. That's not what happened. But we kept coming back nonetheless. And I have to say that over time, it grew on me. Like, it just took a long time. It was slow. It was like a slow burn, but we got there. And over time, I began to realize that I actually feel more connected. I feel more involved. I feel reverent. And there was a sacredness that I felt in this liturgy. And this was still a Novus Ordo Missae. But there was a sacredness in this liturgy that I felt I wasn't going to get if I went back to St. Suburbia. And of course, with practice and listening to others, I began to pronounce those Latin words. And then, some of that choir began to grow on me. I was able to stretch some of those syllables out. I still don't sing well because, anyway, I don't want to harm the ears of others. But nonetheless, that Latin grew, but it took some time. Now, how did I get from there to the traditional Latin Mass, which is what we attend today? So it was not until the spring of 2020, it was the pandemic, when my family and I began to go full time to the TL. And by then I had already attended, several or many traditional Latin Masses. But we didn't switch until the pandemic, till the shutdown, when parishes began to lock their doors, is when we made that switch. Now, we are FSSP, and I got to tell you, it's been a beautiful journey. It wasn't an easy journey, but it's been a beautiful journey. Our boys altar serve, and as a dad, I'm proud to see them up there. The reverence, the sacredness, the intention. These are concepts that I didn't have in my toolbox, just a few years prior. But I can see them now in a way I couldn't see before, which leads me to the one thing that I think is one of the biggest challenges that the trad community, the traditional Catholic community, has, that they need to pay attention to and do something about for us Johnny-come-lately trad Catholics who are joining into these communities. And many of us came full-time during the pandemic, and we're just like, we got to go somewhere. We want to have that refuge. And we found the traditional Latin Mass to provide that to us. But here's what the problem is. So you show up to a traditional Latin Mass. You have no idea what you're doing, and there is no one there to guide you. No one stops to take a moment to say, hey, listen, I see that you're new here. Where are you from? Oh, you're from St. Suburbia. Well, come on over. Let me show you how this works. Yeah, the altar is not the same one you've used to, and yeah, the priest is facing out Orientem, which means facing the east. He's not turning his back on you, and yeah, you're not going to hear every prayer he says, but you know what? It's not for you to hear everything. Some things are between him and God. Don't worry about it. Just here's a little missal, a little cheat sheet. It has English, has Latin. Here, I'll help you follow along. Here's how you say some of those Latin words. Here's why we do this and that and the other thing. Here's why we have more processions than St. Suburbia does. Here's why we have rogation days and other types of festivals and feast days and practices and traditions that you have not celebrated prior to this moment. So there's so many things that a new trad Catholic, a Johnny-come-lately trad Catholic like myself, have to learn the hard way, because there is no one at these communities. There is no RCIA-like program to welcome these people, onboard them, give them the nickel tour, help them better understand, help them pronounce the Latin, help them go through the missal. The first time I'm holding it out because my missal's like about that thick. The first time I got my missal, I think my wife bought it for me for a Christmas present or something. First time I saw it, I looked at this thing and I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, I got to know the barometric pressure to know what page I'm supposed to be on. I was confused and frustrated by the whole experience. I sat down with the priest. He walked me through it. Wow, okay, now it makes sense. Now I'm comfortable. I'm feeling good. So at the end of the day, what can make this whole experience better, more efficient, more seamless for Johnny-come-lately trad Catholics? If traditional Catholics who have been at it a while recognize the new people, reach out, and be helpful. Lend a helping hand. Explain some things. Guide them along. That would be an incredible thing to do for your traditional Catholic community. It might help people like me grow faster and fall more deeply in love with the tradition and patrimony of the church. Praise be to God for it. So that's a bit of my journey. Check out the links below. God bless you. God love you. We'll see you in the next video.